What you do in life echoes in eternity. You are listening to Thought Food.
Hey, it's your girl Becky Kisoon. Thank you so much for joining me today. This is your daily source for personal and spiritual development. You can find new uploads here daily, Monday through Friday. I have a special guest on the show joining me today, introducing celebrity life coach, co-pastor of the Incredible Church of Dallas, and CEO of Hair Fabulous Inc., wife, mother, and prophet, Tanya Baker. Thank you, Tanya, for joining us today. How are you doing today?
I'm great. How are you?
I am feeling great. I'm happy to have you on the show. Today's topic is entitled Finding Strength When Weakness is All You Can Operate In. And today's episode is going to be a little bit different. I'm going to ask Pastor Tanya Baker some questions from some of our listeners. First question. David says, how do I break bad habits that are hindering me from my full potential?
Oh, wow. So that's a question that I get a lot, and you'd be surprised how many people have found themselves caught in cycles that are potentially dangerous to their progression in life. And the way that you start breaking those habits is first you have to identify that it is a bad habit. I think so many of us have done things so long the wrong way that when the right way is presented, it's like, okay, that's right, but I'm used to doing it this way, so I'm going to keep doing it this way. Mm-hmm. And, you know, one of the things that I tell my clients is if you've always known what darkness was, it's sort of like our topic, if you've always known how to be weak, right, that is what you identify with. So then when you are presented with light, if you've known darkness, you're like, this is light? Like, I don't know. Okay, I don't get this, or I don't recognize this as light. But you don't know what light is until it butts up against darkness. So we have to face our truth, butt it up against the light, and we have to be willing to move forward and do the hard work that it takes to break the cycle, because it's not going to break on its own, and it's not going to break if we walk in denial. And most people that are in denial of that habit or that situation or that thing, they can't break it. It has to be a total mind change, and it's not going to happen overnight. It's going to take some time. It's like being a drug addict. If you were on drugs for years, sometimes you can just go and get that whole little detox thing. Some people use prayer and faith. All of those things sometimes work, and it is always a process. So don't be afraid of the process and just face your truth, and you'll get it. You'll get there.
He used some examples. He said,
okay,
when I'm boxing, sometimes I would play small, and I wouldn't beat them up as much as I knew I could because I didn't want to embarrass them. When I was a barber, I didn't show everyone that I knew how to do the newest haircuts because I didn't want anybody to think that I was better than them. And he said there's been a continuous pattern in my life where I play small so that other people can be comfortable around me. But at the end of the day, he said he just opened up a business and he's not producing as much as he knows that he can because the people around him can't even work half as hard as he does. And he said that he's been playing small around them to stay at their level, but he wants to move above that. That reminds me of somebody that's playing small so other people don't feel insecure around them. That's
right. But see, that playing small is not about those people. That's about how he identifies with himself. So again, when you go back and you face that truth, you look in the mirror and say, at what point and at what place in my life did I decide that I wasn't good enough, that I had to deflate me in order to make other people feel happy? Sometimes we see this with children that are now adults that had parents that said, you're never going to be nothing, you're not going to be good, you're not going to be this. So they learn these behaviors. And sometimes you see it within relationships where someone was in love with their spouse or another person, and that person did them so deep that or so negative that they learned to sort of put their own lives on the back burner for that person to sort of lift them up. You know, we see this all the time. So he has to go back. I mean, I love to be his coach because he sounds like he would just be amazing when I was done with him. But he has to go back and really, really find out at what moment and identify at what moment did he start to say, the only way I'm going to be able to navigate through life is if I play the dumb it down role, if I back up. And I say this to that. It sort of makes me think of me, which is why it's even more powerful, because that is sort of how I felt for a long time, being gifted, being anointed, being a prophet of the Lord, being a pastor, a business owner, all these things, not only being a woman in a highly dominated male field in terms of ministry and all of the things that God has been doing with me. I always learned to deflate. I deflated to my husband. My husband didn't tell me that I needed to do that, but I would do it. And I would always put me on the back burner until one day I realized that God didn't give me these gifts to put them on the shelf. He gave us the gifts, and he equips us so that we can use those gifts to help somebody else to be equipped. So he has to go back, check his life over, write it down, preview it, see where this thing sort of jumped in and sort of took control of his mindset.
Do you think that it also has to do with who you surround yourself with? Because sometimes we do get pressured by our peers, and to be like them. So you think that maybe he needs to surround himself with people that are operating at his level as well?
Well, the bravest and the biggest and the best leaders surround themselves around people that are operating at a higher level than them. You always want to be around people that you can look up to, that can do something you cannot do, so that you can aspire to another level. When we hang around people at our level, oftentimes those people become our end cap. They are the highest of the high of what we know. So you want to shoot to be around people that are going, that have gotten or that are striving to go where you want to be in life, that just a few steps ahead of you. It speaks volumes to your security about who you are, because you don't feel deflated in around them or inferior, but your presence there is because you want to be great. Now, in terms of, is that why he is doing that? No. Again, my approach to it is, we can blame other people for our situations, or we can take control of it. If your friends and you're in a group of friends and all your friends say, let's jump off this bridge, but you know darn well you can't swim, why are you going to jump off that bridge? Do it to be macho. Now you dead, and them same friends is burying you, and you looking up to God like, why did I do that? I could still be living again. So no, we don't want to blame other people. We want to look at our own selves, evaluate our own selves and deal with ourselves before we can try to deal with everyone else and save the world.
Another question from Cynthia.
Sure.
She says, how do I handle staying sane with a husband, business, children, and maintaining a home life?
Oh, wow. So tell her who she thinks she is, trying to be me. No, because that is the plight of many women around the world. That is a big complaint that I hear from a lot of the women that I mentor, especially celebrity or high-profile women. And it is, I am trying to keep my head together, and I am trying to manage all these things. So what works for me is that you have to set boundaries. I set boundaries with my children. I set boundaries with my husband. I set boundaries in business. For instance, I set time frames for certain things. And also sometimes you have to demand what you need. I can't tell you how many times, like even as a mother, I'm challenged as a mother, but I have to set boundaries with my adult children. In terms of business, I have clients that want to call me sometimes and they just want to breathe on the phone. And as much as I love them, I have to set boundaries with that. And so when she began to sort of set the boundaries, you got to set boundaries. You got to put a schedule together for yourself. And it's not going to be easy because everybody's not going to flow to the beat of your drum. But she has to demand what it takes to make her happy. I love to watch this show where they going RVing or something like that. So on this show, what had happened was this family was looking for an RV, and the wife goes, okay, I know this is an RV, but I need to have a space for myself. So even in that, she was bold enough to stand up and say, now, look, y'all can have the whole rest of this thing, but we need to find one that's going to give me a getaway so that I can get away from you all and have my space. And that's what we got to do as women. We're taught to be the weaker vessel, and sometimes being weaker is also saying, you know what, I love you, I'm lifting you up, I got your back, babe, but you also need to understand if you need me to be strong for you, you got to give me my space, my time, and take your kids sometimes. Take them with you. Sometimes I don't feel like babysitting my own kids. I need that time. I need sisterhood. I need girlfriend time. And I need me time. She got to set those boundaries.
I think that some moms, they forget about themselves, and they don't
Sure.
focus on what makes them happy, or they don't even have something in their schedule that makes them happy, because they might go get a facial or get a pedicure, get their nails done. I feel like a lot of moms and wives don't have hobbies.
Right. Yeah, that's so true. That is so true. Go ahead.
Do you think that a hobby is important to your happiness? Because I feel that when I look at mothers and wives, I feel like their lives are so consumed with their home life, their husband, and then especially if you're a business owner, with your business, you might spend some time to hang out with your girlfriends, but I feel like a part of that me time is really doing something that you love, something for you genuinely.
So here's the thing. You know, we get married and we become bound to this relationship. And it's so very true that many women lose themselves in marriage and love and relationships. I mean, hey, you ain't got to be married nowadays. You could be dating, and then it's like, okay, hello, who, you know, you got girl time, you know, because all women nowadays just seem to just lose themselves in the men. And then so when you see high profile or you see normal divorce, the first thing you see is these women not having a life. They don't know how to move forward because everything that they were and everything that they are was about that marriage and that family. So
that is so true.
It's very true. I talk to them all the time. I've been married now going on 19 years, okay? My first marriage, I was married 7 years. And in that marriage, he sort of held me bound, okay? And I was happy to do it because I didn't know any difference. You know, I was living in that darkness. And I thought the way that I was living, that's how I was supposed to be. And I didn't realize that I was in prison. And I had not only was in a prison of a natural place, but in a prison of my mind, because my concept of what marriage and love was falsified by this religious encounter that I had growing up in church, thinking that I had to just take anything and you know, and you just become captive to that, thinking that your primary focus is to just be a wife. Well, great. I wanted to be a wife. I wanted to be all that. I wanted to be good at it. But I also wanted to have a life. While in that marriage, I went to college. I got something so that when he left me, well, I left him. I divorced him. But when we broke up, I had a way to care for myself. Now, I'm not telling women to live a separate life from their husband, but what I'm telling you is that you make him greater when he can look at you and say, my wife got her own. My wife is doing her own thing. You know, you hear a complaint a lot from men and say, when I got you, you was looking fine, you was doing this, you was doing that. And even we as women have to take accountability, because sometimes when we get married, we think we just sit on the couch and eat popcorn and pop our babies. No, you can't do that. You got to still be the same fine thing you were, pretty thing, love yourself, because if you don't, believe me, there's someone else that's going to shake it and flip it in front of him. So you got to get it together. We have got to learn that just because we get married, we don't have to lose ourselves in that marriage. And we have got to learn that just because we merge our identities, we still have our own identity within that identity. If you think about God, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost, he didn't have to name them separately, even though they are one. They are the Godhead. He still separated himself into 3 parts so that we could have a different experience with each part. So if God did it, why wouldn't you do it?
Wow. Wow, that's deep.
True it is.
And talking about taking care of yourself, I don't want to get stuck on this, but my girl the other day was meeting up with a guy, and she saw me first. And I said, what is up with your hair, and why are you wearing that? Because she likes this guy. And she said, through my dating process, I'm trying to date people and look what I look like when I'm at home, because if he loves me like this, then he'll love me. You know, I know that he'll really, really want to talk to me, and he'll really, really love me for me, not for all the makeup and my hair done. And I said, well, you got to at least brush your hair. And I said, I don't know where you got that ideology from. I said, but you have to make sure that you are physically looking your best for you first.
I will take a different route with that. And my route with that would be, on many levels, I agree with her. The world sends us these 14-year-old models and tell us after 3, 4 kids, 2 kids, 1 kid for some, with our hips being spread and our breasts starting to sag and all these things that happen to us, that we are supposed to continue to look like our 14-year-old selves. And so men now have this fascination